The lights were blinding, but not unusual. What was unusual was the silence behind them. The cameras were rolling. The audience was seated. The energy in the studio buzzed with anticipation, the kind of electric tension that always came with celebrity appearances. And today, the air carried a little extra static. Tom Cruise had just stepped onto the set of The View, all charm, all polish, flashing that signature grin that had disarmed interviewers for decades. He moved like he belonged on stage, like the spotlight was home. Fans in the studio erupted into applause the moment he walked in. Whoopi Goldberg greeted him with the respect due to a Hollywood icon. Her voice, calm, professional. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Tom Cruise." He waved, nodded, gave that warm, practiced smile that made it feel like he was shaking hands with every single person in the room. He took his seat beside the panel of co-hosts. Sarah N. smiled at him enthusiastically. Sunny Hostin leaned in, already intrigued. And then there was Joy Behar, arms crossed, jaw slightly clenched, face unreadable, watching. The opening questions were light, celebratory, safe. Tom spoke with ease. "The training for this film was grueling," he explained, talking about wear work and stunt sequences with a kind of childlike excitement. "I worked with an incredible team. Every jump, every climb, every fall. It's all real. That's what I want the audience to feel. The sweat, the fear, the adrenaline." Sarah nodded with admiration. "You still do all your own stunts, right? That's legendary." Tom laughed humbly, brushing it off. "It's not about being a daredevil. It's about storytelling, authenticity. That's what matters." The crowd clapped, some cheered. Even Sunny was impressed. "You must have absolute trust in your team to pull that off." Tom's tones softened. "That's what makes filmmaking special. It's never just you. It's everyone. The cast, the crew, the people behind the scenes who risk just as much. We trust each other with our lives." Laughter, claps. For a moment, it was smooth, but on the far side of the panel, Joy Behar hadn't spoken a word, not a smile, not a nod. She simply watched, with the cold calculation of someone rehearsing a shot she hadn't taken yet, and then she moved. She shifted forward in her chair, elbows on the table, shoulders squared. Her eyes locked onto Tom like a hawk spotting prey. The studio energy dimmed a few shades. The audience stopped clapping. Something had changed. "So Tom," Joy said slowly, her voice like the first crack in thin ice, "let's talk about something the viewers are actually concerned about." Tom's smile dimmed a degree. "Your involvement with Scientology?" Silence, deafening, heavy. A studio that moments ago echoed with applause suddenly felt like a vacuum. Whoopi froze. Sarah's mouth parted slightly. Sunny adjusted herself in her seat. Everyone knew this wasn't on the script. Joy didn't blink. "There are people who believe you use your fame to draw vulnerable individuals into a cult, an organization accused of harassment, abuse, and family separations. Do you feel any responsibility for that?" Tom's expression didn't break, but something inside him recoiled. "I came here today to talk about my film," he said calmly, carefully, the actor in him flickering into gear. "Not my personal beliefs." Joy's voice got sharper. "You're a public figure, Tom. Your beliefs are public. When you speak out in support of Scientology, you're promoting an organization that's left a trail of broken families and court cases behind." Tom leaned back slightly, his jaw clenched subtly, but the tension radiated through his whole frame. "Joy," he said, steady but firmer, "I believe in religious freedom. I've never forced anyone to join anything. I have the right to my faith, just like you have the right to yours." Joy's eyebrow lifted. "We're not talking about prayer beads and Sunday Mass here, Tom. We're talking about lawsuits, intimidation tactics, and psychological abuse. That's what people want to know about." Tom's smile vanished completely. "You're misinformed. You're dodging." Sunny stirred. "Maybe we let him answer," Joy snapped. The tension exploded. Tom's shoulders stiffened. "I don't appreciate being attacked for my faith, especially not on national television." Joy's voice grew louder. "Then stop hiding. Behind the word faith, if your faith separates children from their parents and blackmails ex-members, then yes, people are going to ask questions." Tom blinked hard. His voice dropped low. "You're taking isolated incidents and using them to demonize millions of people. That's called prejudice." Joy leaned in, eyes glinting. "I'm holding you accountable." Tom's hands gripped the arms of his chair. "No, you're not. You're performing, and you're doing it at my expense." The crowd murmured, a couple of gasps. No claps now, only heat. Whoopi tried to cut in. "Maybe we should know," Joy said, hand raised. "Let's finish. This Tom's been protected for too long. Protected." Tom's voice cracked like thunder. "You ambush a guest on live TV with character attacks and call that journalism?" Joy leaned forward again. "Is it not journalism to ask a man why he supports an institution under FBI investigation?" Tom fired back. "Have you brought a single document? A single source? Or is this just hearsay and headlines?" Sarah tried again, voice tentative. "Maybe we—" No, Joy cut in sharply, her tone unforgiving. "Tom, have you ever seen abuse within Scientology? Have you ever witnessed forced labor, isolation tactics?" "I'm not going to dignify that with a response," Tom said tightly. "Because you have seen it," Joy said, her voice ablade. "You've seen it, and you've stayed silent." The word coward wasn't spoken yet, but it was hanging in the air like a dagger above the table. Tom's chest rose with a sharp breath. "I don't have to sit here and listen to this." Joy's voice cracked. "Sit down." "No," Tom said, standing. "You've crossed a line." Joy stood to face now, inches apart, both breathing hard. The cameras kept rolling. The audience frozen in place. "You came here to promote your movie," Joy hissed. "You ended up showing us the truth." Tom's voice was ice. "The truth is, you've abandoned real journalism for a viral moment." "You mean accountability?" she sneered. "No," he replied, fire in his eyes. "I mean character assassination." The room was no longer a studio. It was a courtroom, a battlefield, and neither side was retreating. Tom's voice dropped. "Again, cold, dangerous. I've sat through tough interviews, but this isn't tough. It's disgusting." Joy's nostrils flared. "You're disgusted because you were finally held accountable." "I'm disgusted," Tom replied, "because you've weaponized pain to create a spectacle." He sat back down slowly, refusing to flinch. "You don't want truth, Joy. You want a fight." Joy, unblinking, leaned forward one more time, then, "Stop pretending to be a victim, Tom, and start answering for the victims your faith left behind." "A tent?" A breathless silence spread across the studio like spilled gasoline. Every camera kept rolling. Every eye in the room and watching across America was now locked on to people. Tom Cruise sat frozen, fists clenched on the armrests of his chair. Joy Behar stood tall across from him, her posture sharpened with the confidence of someone who thought they had just drawn blood. It wasn't a talk show anymore. It was a siege. "I'm not going to let you drag me through the mud based on rumors," Tom said, jaw tight. "Not when I've come here in good faith." Joy tilted her head. "Good faith," she scoffed. "You mean the same kind of good faith your organization uses when it isolates children from their families?" Tom's eyes narrowed. He didn't flinch. "I've never seen anything like that in my life, and I would never support anything like it?" Joy smirked. "Of course you haven't, because people like you, the faces, they're insulated. They're protected from seeing the dirt. Meanwhile, the rank and file suffer. Nothing's wrong." Sunny Hostin shifted in her seat, visibly uncomfortable. She raised her hand tentatively. "Joy, maybe we should steer this back toward the film." Joy didn't even look at her. "No, not yet." The cameras tightened their focus. Tom leaned forward, voice low and dangerous. "So what's your goal here, Joy? To expose me, humiliate me? Because if you think you're doing this for the victims, you're lying to them and to yourself." Joy snapped back without hesitation. "I'm doing this because no one else will. Every red carpet reporter, every late-night host, they all avoid it because they want the exclusive, the box office bump, the Instagram post, the accusation hit with a sting." "You think this is about ratings?" Tom said. Joy's reply was instant. "I think this is about accountability, something you clearly aren't used to." The studio audience murmured, gasps, a sharp intake of breath from the front row. Whoopi Goldberg's eyes darted toward the control booth, silently pleading for someone to cut to commercial. But no one moved. The moment had grown too big to escape. Joy crossed her arms. "Let me ask you something directly, Tom. Have you ever donated money to the Church of Scientology?" Tom didn't blink. "Yes, hundreds of thousands of dollars." Joy pressed, yes, to an organization accused of forced labor, mental abuse, and financial exploitation. Tom's nostrils flared. Accused, not proven. Joy leaned forward. So if I handed you sworn affidavits right now from former members detailing psychological torture, you'd still dismiss it? Tom's voice cracked through the air. I've read the same stories you have. I've also seen people whose lives were saved by the church, people who were drowning and found a purpose. Joy cut in sharply. So that justifies the others who were broken. Tom looked straight at her. There is no perfect institution. Joy. Not religion, not politics, not this show. The words landed like a slap. Joy stared at him, seething. Don't compare this platform to your religion. Tom leaned back in his chair, folding his hands. Why not? You get to decide who's good and bad here. Who's telling the truth? Who's allowed to speak? Sounds pretty familiar, Sarah. N suddenly broke her silence. Okay, this is getting out of hand, but it was too late. Joy's voice rose. You know what I think, Tom? I think you've been in Hollywood too long. I think you've surrounded yourself with people who never challenge you, who protect you from criticism. And now that someone's finally calling you out, you don't know how to handle it. Tom's smile returned, but this time it didn't. Reach his eyes. No, Joy. I've just learned to recognize when someone isn't asking a question, they're building a trap. Joy's mouth twitched. A trap? Yes, Tom said. You want confession? You want me to unravel myself on live television so you can hold it up like a trophy? A beat? Then Joy's voice softened. Just a touch. No, I want you to be human. I want you to admit that maybe, just maybe, you were wrong to lend. You're a name to something that hurt people. Tom looked down, silent. The crowd leaned in. When he looked back up, his voice was colder than before. I've done more good in my life than you'll ever acknowledge. I've built schools, donated millions to disaster relief, mentored at-risk youth. But none of that matters to you, does it? Joy's voice cracked with intensity. I want you to understand that you're part of something that has caused real pain, and that being a good person in one part of your life doesn't erase harm in another. Tom stood again. The chair screeched against the studio floor, like nails down a chalkboard. Joy, he said, towering above her, you're not asking me to reflect. You're asking me to self-immolate, and I won't. Joy rose to meet him. Think walking away makes you the bigger person. Tom's face twisted. I think staying here and letting you assassinate my character would make me a fool. The crowd was dead silent. You could hear a phone vibrate across the room. Joy's voice dropped. You've always played the hero, haven't you? The man who runs into danger, the one who saves the world. But when it comes to facing the real danger, truth, you walk. Tom stepped closer, closing the space between them. No, Joy. I run into real danger every time I step in front of a camera. Every time someone like you decides to twist the truth because you don't understand it, or worse, because it's profitable. Joy didn't back down. What you think I'm doing? Yes, Tom hissed. You're not here to protect victims. You're here to destroy me. Her voice trembled with fury. You think you're the victim because someone finally held a mirror to your face. Tom's hand reached for the microphone clipped to his jacket. A murmur ran through the studio. He was going to walk again, but he stopped, hand frozen on the mic dot, and for a second, his eyes flicked up toward the crowd, and for a heartbeat, he looked tired, not angry, not righteous, just tired. Joy noticed. She tried to press her advantage. Tom, you can end this right now. Just admit it. Admit that the organization you've championed for decades isn't perfect. Tom turned slowly to face her. And then what? You get your viral moment. Your headlines, a few more likes and retweets. She didn't answer. He gave a bitter laugh. You don't care what I say, Joy, because if I admit fault, you'll say I waited too long. If I defend myself, you'll call me delusional. You're not here for truth. You're here for blood. Silence again. The kind of silence that made producers in the control room sweat. Then Tom said, You want a soundbite, Joy? He unclicked the mic. Here it is. I came here to promote a story about courage, loyalty, and the human spirit. I didn't expect to be put on trial. But I won't apologize for my faith, and I won't apologize for being human. He placed the mic carefully on the table. Good luck with your ratings." Then he walked, not fast, not storming, just gone. Joy stared after him, chest heaving, but she didn't speak. Crowd sat frozen, torn between shock and awe. Whoopi Goldberg leaned forward, her voice soft. "We need to go to break." Behind the thick black curtains of the View studio, muffled voices collided like crashing waves. Tom Cruise was gone. Not just off stage, gone, through the back hall, past the green room and out the service corridor, surrounded by silent, stone-faced security. His publicist, red in the face, followed at a near run, and for once in his career, Tom didn't stop to charm the stagehands or offer his signature farewell nod to the floor manager. There was no bow this time, back inside. The studio lights flickered uncertainly, as if unsure whether they were meant to continue illuminating this mess. Joy Behar sat alone at the far end of the table, still standing technically, but suddenly very small. Her arms were folded across her chest like armor, but her eyes, they were searching the crowd for any sign of approval, applause, something, nothing, not yet. Whoopi Goldberg, seated beside her, finally exhaled. That was not how this was supposed to go. Sunny Hostin stared blankly at the table, lips pressed so tight they were almost white. Sarah N. tapped her pen against her coffee mug nervously. Someone off camera gave the wrap-it-up signal. But the producers didn't cut. They couldn't. This wasn't TV anymore. This was something different, something historic. The control room was flooded with split screens, studio feed, back hallway camera, Tom's car pulling out of the lot. Phones were blowing up across production. Interns, wide-eyed execs, shouting, "Hey, producer," leaned in through the earpiece. "Joy, we need a reset now." Joy didn't move. A few claps started, scattered and weak. One audience member stood up and started shouting, "You go, Joy!" But the support wasn't unanimous. A louder voice from the left side of the audience yelled back, "That was an ambush. Show some respect." Another shouted, "He came here for his film." The crowd was unraveling. Whoopi leaned toward, her mic calm, but sharp. "We're going to take a quick commercial break." "No," Joy said quietly, cutting her off. Whoopi blinked. Joy turned to the camera, adjusting her mic, her expression unreadable. "If we go to break now, we look like cowards, and I'm not afraid of what just happened." A beat dot, then she leaned in. "Let's talk about it." The control room panicked. The floor manager made a slicing gesture across his neck. "Abort, abort, go to commercial." But the cameras were locked on Joy now, frozen, she continued, eyes fixed on the lens. "What happened just now was hard, and for some of you, it was probably uncomfortable. But sometimes journalism should be uncomfortable, because the truth isn't always polite. It doesn't always smile for the cameras." The audience was split. Some clapped hesitantly, some crossed their arms, some left Sarah shifted in her chair. "Joy, I think people were just shocked at how quickly it escalated." Joy looked at her. "Was I passionate? Yes. Was I prepared? Absolutely. But ambush? No." Tom Cruise knew what people would ask. He's been dodging these questions for years. Sunny finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, trembling. "But not like that, Joy. Not on this show. Not that directly. We blindsided him." Joy turned, surprised. "We?" Sunny pulled back slightly. "You—" A ripple passed through the studio. Joy's jaw tightened. "So let me get this straight. We're defending Scientology now." "No," Sunny said firmly. "We're defending boundaries. We're defending decency. That wasn't an interview, Joy. That was a trial. And we were judge, jury, and executioner." Joy's voice dropped. "You're saying I went too far," Whoopi sighed. "Joy, you did what journalists do. You asked hard questions. But there's a difference between questions and accusations. And right now, half the country thinks we just tried to burn a man at the stake." Another intern burst into the control room. "Twitter's on fire. Tom versus Joy is trending #1 globally. Comments are split. Some are calling for her resignation. Others are calling her a hero." The producer winced. "Cut the stream. We need control." But back on set, Joy pressed forward. "Tom Cruise has used his platform for decades to promote something deeply controversial. I ask the questions millions of people have been wondering. If that makes me the villain, fine. but I'm not going to apologize for doing my job. Whoopi leaned back in her chair. What job is that, Joy? Starting a fire or reporting the facts? A hushed Joy turned away. Behind the scenes, Tom sat in a tinted SUV, hands clasped tight. His publicist was already fielding calls from TMZ, Deadline, and every talk show in America. Do we make a statement? The publicist asked. Tom stared straight ahead. His voice was low, almost a whisper. Let it burn. Elsewhere, clips of the confrontation had already gone viral. One video, titled Tom Cruise Eviscerates Joy Behar Live, had racked up over 2 million views in under an hour. Another, Joy Behar, stands her ground against Hollywood power, trailed close behind. TikTok duets exploded. News anchors were already lining up commentary segments. Back at ABC headquarters, damage control meetings erupted like wildfires. PR departments scrambled to release statements. Staffers cried in bathrooms and Joy stood by her words. She stayed after the taping to answer press questions off the record. She wasn't rattled, not publicly, but her hands shook when no one was looking. She stared into her dressing room mirror for a long time, and for a fleeting second. She looked afraid. Not of Tom, not of the public, but of what came next, the fallout that evening. CNN aired a full recap of the confrontation. NBC called it the most explosive interview of the decade. Fox News ran the headline, Hollywood Meltdown, Cruise Walks Off, Behar Blows Up. Hollywood insiders were divided. Some praised Tom's composure. Others said he cracked under pressure. Some said Joy was brave. Others said she had gone too far, crossing ethical lines. Tom's studio, already days away from the film's release, considered postponing the premiere. Fans began tweeting #IST, and with Tom. Others fired back with #Behar was right. Even SNL announced a cold open parody within hours. The personal toll that night, Joy sat alone on her balcony. She'd turned off her phone. The silence was deafening. On the table in front of her sat a small pile of printouts. Old Scientology exposes legal cases, handwritten notes, printouts from Reddit forums, and former member blogs. A highlight circle on one of them read, Cruise. Named in fundraising campaign -2009, she stared at it. She wasn't just grandstanding, she believed in what she'd said. Still did, but somewhere beneath the armor, a quiet question rattled in the corner of her mind. Did I help the victims? Or just add to the noise? She didn't know, not yet, and on the other side of LA, Tom stood alone on a hotel balcony, looking out at the city skyline. He wasn't scrolling, he wasn't watching the fallout. He just stood there, jaw clenched, arms folded, heart racing. The question echoing in his chest was different. Will they ever see me for who I am, or only what I represent? He didn't know either. Not yet, but he'd made a decision. He would return not to The View, but to the stage. And next time, he wouldn't be the guest. He'd be the one asking the questions. It had been 6 days since the moment that detonated across national television. 6 days since Tom Cruise walked off the set of The View in what would become the most dissected, rewatched, and polarizing moment of his career. In those 6 days, the media machine spun with the force of a hurricane. News cycles churned. Podcast panels broke it down frame by frame. Body language experts took to YouTube. Former Scientologists and celebrity defenders alike were paraded across talk shows. The film Tom had come to promote, now sitting in the middle of a public storm. Boycotts had been called, advanced ticket sales had surged. There were protests outside. ABC studios, journalists received death threats. Publicists quit, PR firms were fired. And Joy Behar, she was suddenly both a martyr and a menace, depending on who you asked. Every interview request in the country hit her inbox. She declined all of them until one offer arrived that made her pause. It was from Tom, not his team. Him, directly. The message was brief, handwritten, delivered to the network in an envelope. I want to speak with you. No cameras, no stage, just 2 people. Come if you're serious about truth. The location, a private rooftop venue at a midtown hotel. Time 9 p.m. tonight. She hesitated for almost 2 hours before replying, then simply wrote, yes, the meeting. Rooftop midtown Manhattan. It was cold. Not the kind of cold that makes you shiver, the kind that makes you listen. Tom stood at the edge of the rooftop, looking over the city. No entourage, no handlers, just him in a black coat, still as a statue. Joy stepped onto the graveled rooftop with deliberate steps. No makeup, no cameras, just a scarf pulled tight and a look that could stop traffic. They stood there in silence for nearly a full minute before either spoke. "Thought you'd cancel," Tom said without turning. Joy stared at his back. "I almost did." "Why'd you come?" he asked. She stepped closer, but kept her distance. "Because you asked, and because maybe I wanted answers too." Tom finally turned. His eyes were sharp, but not angry. He looked grounded. Joy folded her arms. "So, no audience this time. No producers whispering in our ears. No applause," Tom added. "No escape routes either." They both almost smirked. Tom gestured to a small table between them with 2 chairs. "No drinks, no mics, just chairs. Let's talk like people," he said. Joy sat. Tom followed. The city buzzed faintly below, like the hum of a distant orchestra tuning before. A final movement. "You ambushed me," Tom said plainly. Joy didn't flinch. "You promote something I believe has caused real harm." "I asked about it." Tom leaned forward. "You didn't ask. You accused." "I asked questions. You've dodged for years," she said. He exhaled, slow. "Not because I'm hiding, because no one ever really wants the answer." Joy's eyes narrowed. "Then give it now, right here. Did you know about the disconnection policies? The forced labor? The harassment campaigns?" Tom's jaw tightened. "No." Joy raised a skeptical brow. "You expect me to believe that?" "I didn't say those things didn't happen," he said. "I said I didn't know. The church, it doesn't operate the same way for people like me." Joy nodded slowly, digesting it. "I was insulated," Tom said. "Worshipped, protected. The face, not the hands." "So what now?" Joy asked. "Now that you do know," Tom looked away. "I don't know what I believe anymore." It was the most honest thing either of them had said. Joy stared at him, unblinking. "Then why defend it so hard on national TV?" Tom turned back. "Because faith, even flawed, can still save someone. And because you were swinging a sledgehammer in a room full of glass." Joy bit her lip. He leaned forward. "Do you understand what you actually did that day? I asked you to be accountable." "No," he said. "You defined me. You made me a headline, a villain. You didn't ask for truth. You asked for a confession to fit the story you'd already written." Joy swallowed hard. Tom's voice dropped to a whisper. "You weren't wrong to ask. You were wrong to judge before I answered." A gust of wind pushed through the rooftop. Joy pulled her scarf tighter. "You want to know the real reason I walked?" Tom said. She nodded. "Because I knew if I stayed, I'd say something I couldn't take back, and I'm tired of the world turning pain into performance." Joy looked down. Tom's voice softened. "I'm not the enemy, Joy. We're just 2 people trying to figure out what the hell truth looks like anymore." Joy finally met his eyes. Her voice was barely audible. "I wasn't trying to destroy you," Tom nodded, "but you almost did." "Silence then," Joy whispered. "I was angry. At you, at all of it. At the lies, the cover-ups, the hurt." Tom sat back. "You're allowed to be angry. But I took it out on you," she said, "and you didn't deserve all of it." He closed his eyes for a moment, then said quietly, "That's the closest thing to an apology I've gotten in a while." Joy almost laughed. Almost she looked up at the sky, then back at him. "So what happens now?" Tom shrugged. "Maybe we don't destroy each other. Maybe we do something better," Joy smirked. "Like what?" Co-host a podcast. Tom actually laughed, a genuine, belly-deep laugh that echoed off the buildings. "God help us," he said. They sat together for a moment, no longer as adversaries, but as something resembling allies. 2 battle-worn warriors who'd finally put down the swords. Joy broke the silence. "You really didn't know?" He shook his head. "Not all of it. Enough now to ask better questions." She reached into her coat and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "Then start with this." He took it, unfolded it, read the heading, Affidavit Church Internal Policy Manual, 2005. Tom's face darkened. He folded it again and placed it inside his coat. "Thank you," he said. Joy stood. Tom followed. She offered her hand. He took it, a long, firm shake. Then he leaned in. If I do speak, really speak, I want you to hear it first. Joy nodded slowly. Then you better be ready to tell the truth, all of it. I am, he said. And this time, she believed him. They parted quietly, without fanfare. No photographers, no tweets, just two people who had finally seen each other. And beneath the skyline of a city that never sleeps, something shifted. A headline, not a scandal, but a possibility. That maybe, just maybe, truth wasn't about winning. It was about surviving each other long enough to see it.